Ghost stories. Horror stories of the madhouse, the story of a female doctor on the death ward. There are many types of hospitals, including the hospitals specialized in the field of the heart, and there are those specialized in the field of chest diseases, and so on. There is also a hospital called the mental hospital, or as it is called, the hospital for the insane. And our appointment today with a story from the horror stories of the madhouse, a story entitled A Doctor in the Ward of Death. So we hope that you will enjoy hearing this story, and we hope that you will like it. My name is Dr. Sarah. I work as a doctor in a mental hospital in the city. In fact, I am known to be good at dealing with people who come to the hospital. I do not see them as crazy as everyone else looks at them, but I see them as sick people who need special care and attention, which may lead to their recovery from what they sometimes suffer from. Because of my good reputation, a decision was issued to transfer me to another hospital in one of the neighboring cities. Ensure that all hospital staff follow the instructions. I went to the hospital, and in fact the first week of my work was good, but the strange thing is the hospital's shape from the inside, as it consists of 2 floors and a basement divided into wards, and among these wards is a ward department, called the death ward. This ward was called by this name because most patients or even doctors who enter it never come out of it. Not only is this the scary thing, but the craziest thing is that those who disappear do not show up again. My work starts at 8 in the morning and ends at 3 in the afternoon. One day I had a friend did not come to work, so I decided to work overtime for her. I stayed up that day in the hospital. I finished my work at 10 o'clock in the evening, and while I was on my way out of the hospital, I heard a strange sound. In fact, I felt scared because the hospital at this time becomes almost empty, and there was no one else in the place where I was. I was in the basement examining the condition of a patient of my doctor friend. I hid to see who would appear, and suddenly something suspicious happened. I saw the former director of the hospital with a group of nurses running towards the death ward, with a patient who was tied up. The patient was screaming loudly, but of course the place was completely empty of any doctors or nurses. I did not believe what I saw. I know the old manager passed away about 15 years ago. While I was trying to sneak out, one of the nurses saw me and started running behind me. She grabbed me by my feet and with great difficulty managed to escape from her and escape outside the hospital. I asked for a week's leave from the horror of what I saw there. I went back to work and told the current director of the hospital what I saw. But he did not believe me. While I was sitting in my office thinking about what happened, one of the nurses came to me. The nurse said, "I want to tell you something about what happened with you a week ago." I said to her, "What is there? Tell me." The nurse said, "When my daughter was with me one day, I saw her entering the death ward in the basement. I ran after her and she looked at me and her eyes turned white." The story of a doctor on the death ward. The nurse continued her speech. "My daughter screamed at me in a very rough voice, saying, 'You will not see me anymore.' I passed out, and when I woke up, my daughter had completely disappeared, and until today I do not know where she is." In fact, when I heard these words, I was curious to discover the secret that is happening in the death ward. That day I waited in my office until 10 o'clock in the evening. I crept downstairs and hid there. After about 10 minutes I heard the same voice coming, the old director of the hospital with the nurses. This time the patient with them was the nurse's son. Her specifications were identical to the same specifications as the nurse told me about it, and she was also wearing the same clothes. Everyone was inside the death ward and I desperately wanted to discover what was happening in this ward. Suddenly I saw the doctor and nurses coming out of the death ward. I decided to save this child and I was able to enter the ward. As soon as I entered I saw something terrifying. There are rituals and incantations on walls and candles everywhere. I approached the girl and saw something that froze the blood in my veins. The girl had white eyes looking at me smiling and then started screaming. I hid under a bed next to the wall. I saw the nurses and with them the old hospital director entering the death ward. Suddenly I saw the bed that I hid under it and was shattered into pieces. I tried to run and get out, but I was hit on the head to lose consciousness. I opened my eyes and saw my colleagues telling me that they had found me in front of the death ward in the morning. I told them everything that happened to me, but no one believed me. Surprisingly, when I searched for the nurses who were with the hospital director, I discovered something very terrifying. All the nurses died in the same year as the previous director of the hospital. Not only that, but when I started looking for the nurse who she told me the story of her daughter discovering something terrifying, the nurse was originally dead 10 years ago, I started asking myself if she was talking to me. In the end, I was accused of insanity, because the new director thought that I had been affected by the patients I deal with in this hospital. I was suspended from work, and even prevented me from entering this hospital again. I lost my job and status because of this hospital, but I will return to discover the secret of Amber. Death one day.